Hi, how's everyone doing? I suppose I should introduce myself. My name is Joni-Rae. What can I tell you about myself? I'm a puppeteer and a performer. That's kind of what I try and get away with. I'm a baker as well. I'm just very sad about Great British Bake Off, but we'll survive. I'm fairly sure I know the entirety of The Lion King off by heart. And in August of 2013, I got my heart broken. Don't worry, that's not what this show is about. It's not like 50 minutes of, oh, that bastard, men right. No, because that would be awful. But I mention it because it was a catalyst. If that hadn't have happened, everything that did happen wouldn't have happened. Because in June of 2014, I started online dating. And I had to do that really awful thing where you write about yourself. And this is my profile. This is my genuine profile. Let's have a look. I gave myself the name Raeosaurus because I knew what kind of man I wanted to attract. Let's just have a read. My self-summary. I'm a carefree, creative girl with a lot of ambition who likes to make her friends laugh and feel loved. That's quite nice. And what am I doing with my life? I'm a puppeteer and theatre maker. That's what I'm really passionate about. I do a lot of teaching. I'm really good at cheering my friends up and baking. First thing people usually notice about me is my glasses. I'm also quite short. How short? 5'2". I'm straight, white, diet anything, smokes no, drinks rarely, drugs never. The most private thing I'm willing to admit is I do a really good impression of a gorilla or a monkey butler, but that's for another time. That's a bit of an Easter egg. So yeah, with a bit of trepidation, I posted my profile online, and I didn't do too badly. I got the very obviously copied and pasted messages and a lot of one-night stand requests, which just wasn't what I was interested in. And but I ended up talking to about 5 guys. I think I did quite well. Let's see, there was a 3D animator, which I think is pretty snazzy. A teacher, so hopefully good with kids. Just thinking ahead. An improvisational comedian, so you just gotta hope that he's funny. An architect, just a bit of bling bling. And a guy who wrote short, erotic sci-fi novels, which I didn't actually get to read in the end. But anyway, these were the people that I was talking to, and next came, the next hurdle, which was arranging dates. But do not worry, that is not what the show's about either. It's not 45 minutes of the trials, the tribulations, will I ever find love again? Men right? No. But again, I mention it because it was a catalyst. If that hadn't have happened, everything that did happen wouldn't have happened. But there was this one date with the architect, I won't lie. And we decided to meet at Finchley Road Station because I lived in Hertfordshire in the time, so it was just easy for me to get to, and he lived a little bit more inside London, so it was just the best place for us to meet. And I don't know whether it's because I've never really done online dating before, but my mouth was really dry and my legs were really, really shaky, and there were all these butterflies in my stomach, but all the butterflies were just being sick. But I just told myself, well, that's nerves, that's pretty normal, and I just tried to calm myself down with that. And I decided to go and do a bit of retail therapy before I got there. I went to Tiger because I bloody love Tiger, and I don't know. I remember walking up to the station and I saw him. and my heart sank because I knew I didn't fancy him, like, instantly. And unfortunately, I'm a really nice person. So instead of just like walking straight past him, going home, I ended up going on this like 1.5 hour date with the highlight was being, well, we decided to go for breakfast, and we just went to a cafe, and for some reason he bought like a punnet of blackberries with him. You know, why not? And then he opened them and he picked one up, and there was a caterpillar on it. And I thought, oh great, something to talk about. But then he killed it in front of me. I mean, not on purpose, it was by accident, but I don't know about you, but that's a bit of a deal breaker for me. And like, I just thought, you know, like, oh heavens, what am I going to do? Because I'm not very good at the whole like nightclub scene. I'm a bit of an introvert, so I'm not very good at the whole real life dating, and then like this online dating, it's just full of weirdos and freaks and caterpillar killers. So at the age of 24, I decided that I was never going to find love again. That was it, and that I was just, you know, I was just going to go off, and I mean, instead of being like a crazy cat lady, I was going to be a crazy dog lady, because dogs are just clearly better than cats. And that was it. That was my destiny. That was what I had to look forward to. But I had arranged another date with the improvisational comedian, and again, I'm a nice person, so I just didn't have it in the heart of me to cancel. And he was coming from Brighton, so it seemed a bit cruel. So again, we decided to meet at King's Cross St Pancras station, because again, I was coming from Hertfordshire and he was coming from Brighton, so again, it was just the best place for us to meet. And I don't know whether it was because we'd been kind of texting over the weekend. I knew him maybe a little bit better, but like my mouth was dry, but it didn't feel like a desert. And my legs were like a bit shaky, but I didn't feel like I was having muscle spasms. And let's just check on the butterflies. Butterflies, are you okay? The butterflies are okay. So, and I don't know if you know this, but King's Cross St Pancras has all these like exits and entrances, and so I gave him a really quick text to say, where do you want to meet? And then he rang me. And I kind of just let it ring. Because in that moment, I just had this like wall of what ifs, you know, like what if he was about to cancel on me? Or what if I said something really stupid on the phone? Or what if he was about to admit that he was worse than a caterpillar killer? Because that bar had been set, and that was a bar that didn't even need to be set, but there we go, that's where we were. But I just said, come on, Joni, you just do this one. Just get this one out of the way, and then you can go back to your destiny and dogs and everything else that you wanted. So I rang him. And it was at this time that I realised that we hadn't heard each other's voices before. And I thought, that's a bit 21st century. Then he answered and he said, hello. And it was in that moment that I realised that he had said on his profile that he was Scottish, but I can't do the accent. Hello? No, I don't. I'm not going to do that. Anyway, he answered and he said where he was, and I knew the area a little bit better, so I kind of knew where he was, and we were making very awkward small talk, and then he said, are you the one with the hat? Because I always used to wear a hat. And then I turned and I saw him, and I thought, no, that will do. No, that's fine. Yes, and then we met and properly, and I decided to take him to one of my most favourite places in London, which is this place called Drink, Shop and Do, which is like part tea shop, part cake shop, part twee little shop, and part nightclub. But it was like 10:30 in the morning, so we weren't going to the nightclub bit. And so we just decided to have a cup of tea, and it was just really nice. Like really, really nice. And we were just chatting away. And at one point I had to go to the toilets because I was just laughing so much I felt a bit faint. And we decided we didn't really want things to stop there either. So we went out of the shop and turned a right, and we ended up in this bookshop. And like he got me this postcard that had a dog on it. So, you know, he's a dog person. Great, tick, tick, tick. Went round the corner again, went to the British Library, and we thought, oh, wouldn't it be really funny if we just threw our hats on the bus that were there? I mean, we didn't do that, but, you know, I was wearing a hat, he was wearing a hat, you know, both hat people, tick, tick, tick. And then I started to feel quite hungry, and I asked him if he was hungry, and he said that he was hungry, and so, you know, fine, tick, tick, tick. And I get a bit hangry when I'm hungry, so we decided to go for lunch. We decided to go to the Pret-a-Manger that was just across the road, and it was just really lovely. And then I remembered that I needed to be at work, and so we walked to Marylebone Station, which is a really long way away, but I think subconsciously I just wanted to spend a bit more time with him. And you know, I went on my train and he went on his train, and he texted me first, which I think is very important. And a date that was only supposed to be like just the morning ended up being most of the day. And I mean, I did get to work on time, luckily, because what I sometimes do is I help to organise events and activities that go on this farm. And we were just gearing up for our first like big community festival. And my boss lady Eve, she said, well, why don't you invite him? And I ummed and I ahed and I said no. And then I kind of thought, like, why not? And so I invited him, and it turned out that he was free. So he came along to that. And I mean, it was a bit weird because he pretty much just watched me work, but I was in charge of a group of volunteers, and we decided to go and have burgers as well, and I bought us some cakes, and then I remembered that I invited all my friends to come as well, so he met them, and my brother, and my sister-in-law, and my nephew. So a bit of a baptism of fire, but he did really well, like really, really well. And as things were getting a bit more quiet, I decided to take him to another of my most favourite places, which is just this field on the other side of the farm. And how you get there is you kind of walk up this like stony, craggly hill, and you just keep on going, and then you turn, and suddenly you're in this woods, and there's like this archway of branches just all above you, and it's so quiet. Like it's so quiet, but it's beautiful and it's peaceful, and you keep on walking down there, and then you turn again, and then suddenly you're going over a bridge, but it's a bridge that goes over the M25. But if you just keep on going, if you just keep on persisting, you just end up in this beautiful, beautiful field, and everything you can see, as long as you don't look over there, everything you can see is just trees and green, and you look up and there is nothing above you but just blue sky. And so we were standing there, and he had his arms around me and his head on top of my head, and I just felt so And then I realised I had to tell him something. And as soon as that happened, all I had in my brain was, you have to tell him, 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 you have to tell him. To the point that I couldn't even hear what he was saying, and he was right in front of me, and I don't know, I had to say something. Okay, so we're sitting on the hill, and the M25 is snaking, and the sun is setting, and the grass is so tall that it almost covers our heads, and I turn to him and I say, I have to tell you something. And that's when my mind went blank, and I thought, cheers brain, cheers for that, because you can't really just say those words without having something to back it up with, and I really just didn't know how to. Okay. Now, this is a story all about how my life got flipped, turned upside down, and I'd like to take a minute, just sit right here and tell you how I've had a mental illness for 12 and a half years. I mean, it didn't happen like that, but that was it. That's what I had to tell him, and I just didn't know. And the weird thing is I could just say this right now, standing here, but I suppose I could be really saying anything. But I'm not, because this happened, and this is real. This moment, these seconds that are going past, they're real seconds, and I'm kind of just sitting there trying to think what to say, and maybe I shouldn't even say anything, but so we're sitting in Pret a Manger, and we're watching a video on my phone, and it's a bit of a cheeky ruse, because I just kind of want to be sitting next to him. I'm an old romantic, and we've got our headphones, and we're sitting really close together, and we're just watching this film, and then it ends, and we turn, and we look at each other, and I just got this swell, this real and I suppose it's just, that's what you have, isn't it? And it's that kind of oh, well, you're going to kiss someone, and this could either go really, really well, or it could go really, really badly, but you just have to take that risk, don't you? You just have to take that chance. And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Joni, is this really the best thing to be saying on a second date? And no, it's not. But if I didn't tell him now, when did I tell him? Was it the third date? Was it the fourth date? Was it the wedding night? That is a little bit forward, but... And again, all these seconds are just ticking past, and he's looking at me, and I'm just struggling, trying to find what to say, and I'm going back to how I've told other people. This is me, and I'm 11 years old, and I'm sitting in a paediatrician's office, and I've just been diagnosed with generalized anxiety disorder. And he's talking to my mum, and my mum's talking to him, but no one's talking to me. I just know that something's wrong. And he's asking her questions, and she's asking him questions, and he's explaining things to her, but she's explaining things to him, but no one's explaining anything to me. I just know that something's wrong. I'm 18 and I'm on a train, and I'm trying to explain to my ex what's just happened, because I've had a panic attack in the cinema. And it was a real shame, because it was Wally, and I was really looking forward to seeing Wally, but panic attacks sometimes just don't care about that kind of shit. That was a second date. And I'm fairly sure that's not how I want to do it. And I don't think I want to explain after something's happened. I used to get my ex to tell people for me because I just didn't want to suffer the rejection, just in case. I'm 23 and I'm in my car and I'm reading a GP's referral letter. And it isn't addressed to me, but I still read it because I want to know what's being said about me. And I read through this letter and it's weird because there's just all these words and phrases like anxiety and generalize and break up and break down, and it just doesn't quite fly with me. It just doesn't quite get things across. And okay, let's think about the science of this. So 1 in 4 people will have some kind of mental health issue in their lifetime, and 1 in 10 will have what they describe as a disabling anxiety disorder. But what is anxiety? Well, that's what I've got an overhead projector for, because it's time for some visual aids. Let me just put that on. So that is the brain. But then this is my brain. And everything I am, everything I see, everything I process, everything I think, everything just comes from this. So let's have a look. You have the prefrontal cortex here, and then you've got like the auditory cortex, I think is over here, and then you have the amygdalas that are really deep inside there, and you've got the spinal cord that comes down here, and that also has the medulla, and I'm not quite sure what a pons is, but that's around here, and so the anxiety lives. But that's the thing, is anxiety is not a mass or a tumour or a particular part of the brain. It's just lots of different bits of the brain not quite working together. But if you had to pin it down, then you should look at the amygdala. Now, the amygdala's job in the brain is to, it's kind of like the primary response centre of the brain. And it's also where emotional responses happen. It's also sometimes called the fear centre of the brain, because what it does is if any kind of stimuli comes through, it goes through the amygdala, and it decides whether it can perceive it as a threat. Because if it does, then it sends messages to the thalamus and the hypothalamus, and then they send all these messages to the body to put it into the fight or flight response, which I suppose is kind of what it is on the tin. So you either fight against something or you just run away. And I mean, that's really good if you are suffering, if you are facing a tiger. It's probably a bit of a motivator if you need a deadline. But when you can't leave the house, see, what I struggle with is that I can understand this as much as I can. I'm not a neuroscience scientist. I'm someone who's got 2 degrees in theatre. And I try and educate myself. I try and really know about all of this, but it doesn't quite explain how. Okay, so I've been driving for quite a while now, but I've never been on a motorway. And it's because I'm terrified that if I do, I will get on there and I will crash into someone. And I'll kill someone, and I can't get that thought out of my brain, so I just can't get on there. And it doesn't quite explain how So like when I'm with my friends, when we're in a little social gathering and we're just two like little party brains and I'm just hanging out, that I tend to get quite tired because I use up a lot of nervous energy, and I always have to go sooner than I really want to, and I regret it sometimes. Really regret it. And it doesn't quite convey how... So I really love going to the theatre. Like, I bloody love the theatre. Like, it's all I really want to go and see. But I always have to sit on the aisle. Because if I'm not sitting on the aisle, then I feel really trapped. If someone's in between me, and I need to know that I can get to an exit whenever and wherever I can, and if I can't do that, I start to panic. And it kind of ruins the whole experience for me. I don't think this is helping. Okay, instead of this being my brain, let's instead imagine that this is my mind. Obviously, it's never this blank, and I suppose what I'm doing here is a bit of a lecture, maybe a little bit of a TED talk. So what I've got in my mind is my script. And so that is everything that I've got to say, everything that I've got to do. It's just all like planned out in front of me. But it's never that easy, is it? Because at the same time, you always get these like intrusive thoughts. So what have I got here? I've got, I'll have some water in a sec. Yeah, no, that's true. I need some food soon. I haven't had dinner. I'm working really hard. Yes, I am. Is everything okay? I think everything's okay. I fancy some chips. Yeah, I really do. Shit. Oh, you know, I'm panicking now. I need a wee. And what if I'm sick? And there's just all these kind of like thoughts like coming out in front of me. And I suppose you could categorize them into kind of three different types. You've got I'm kind of analysing what I'm doing right this second. Just kind of thinking about how I'm speaking, the words that I'm using, the tone of voice, everything like that. But I'm also reflecting. I'm also reflecting on what I've done, making sure that I've done everything that I need to do so that this point in time makes sense. And then I'm also planning ahead and just kind of making sure that I know what's coming up, that I'm ready for it, and everything's going to go okay. And I mean, that's normal, right? I mean, that's what just all of this is about. But this is my mind all the time. I'm constantly analysing everything that I do, and then I'm constantly analysing what other people are doing in response. You know, I'm trying to figure out what they want, what they need, and what I want and what I need, and I'm reflecting back at things that have happened, but I'm not letting them go. I'm not letting myself just kind of forgive myself for anything. It always comes back in things that have happened years ago, and I'm always planning ahead, but I'm planning ahead for things that will never happen, and at 100 futures that might never ever happen, but I need to know that I'm prepared just in case. So I'm driving, and this is my mind. I'm with my friends, and this is my mind. I am just trying to sleep, and this is my mind, and there's just not much that I can do about that. So we're sitting on the hill, and the M25 is snaking, and the sun is setting, and the grass is so tall that it almost covers our heads. And I turn to him and I say, I have to tell you something. In fact, I've got something to show you. And so I pass in my brain and these thoughts I've been having, and it didn't happen like that. So we're in Drink, Shop and Do, and things are going really well, actually, and we're just, getting to know each other. So, we're asking each other questions, and all these weird kind of coincidences keep on coming up. Like, I've got a brother who's 10 years older than me, and he's got a brother who's 9 years older than him, and then his brother has the same birthday as my other brother, and this one's a little bit weird. But he tells me that his dad died when he was quite young, and the weird thing is that my dad's dad died when he was quite young. They're almost kind of like the same age, and it just, I don't know, it just kind of resonated with me. And he didn't have to tell me that. But he was the improvisational comedian, so we're just talking about performance, because I'm a puppeteer, and we're just talking about like ebb and flow, how you have light and shade, like the actual theory of why we laugh, and just all this like wanky bollocks. But it's just really nice to talk to someone about that. Because that's what I've been doing all this time, like I really love puppeteering. Like it's everything that I kind of want to do. I watch it, I do it, I write about it. And, some people say, oh no, I really love puppetry, but I love it. Like I am it. Like this is just everything that I want to do. And any guesses what's in that bag? It's a puppet. I'll just get him out. Why not? So yeah, this is a puppet that I was making when we were first kind of talking, and I think that puppets are really great because they help you talk about things that are quite difficult to say. I kind of find puppets make me quite brave. And I don't think what I do is particularly special, but only because I kind of believe anyone can puppeteer. You just have to remember a few things. So let's see, so there's movement. So movement is of course quite important, but movement suggests character and suggests emotion. So like an angry character might be like hands on hips and might point at people, and like a happier character might be quite loose in the hips and I suppose like a sad character would do a lot of like self-comforting gestures. And one of the kind of my daily habits, kind of daily reminders of my anxiety, is that I cannot keep my hands still. And I've always got to be using them, and it might be that I'm just playing with my hair or my clothes or anything around me is just, I just have to keep my hands busy. And I don't even wear jewellery because I know I'm going to take it off, I'm going to lose it, and then that would make me quite sad. But it's just a nervous habit, it's just a nervous tick. But yeah, it's just a daily reminder of what I go through. The second thing you really need to think about is it's quite a subtle movement, but it's so effective, which is breath. And breath is really good because it suggests thought and emotion and thinking, and when I have a panic attack, one of the first things that goes is my breathing. And it's quite a common thing because it's just that fight or flight response. It's basically the body just trying to get as much oxygen as it can into the body. But the problem is that if you don't have anything to use it against, it kind of gets stuck in your system and you get lightheaded, your fingers get very tingly, and you're basically just hyperventilating. And then like the first the first suggestion that I'm having a panic attack is I usually breathe just suddenly very sharply through my nose, and it's just me trying to get as much oxygen as I can, but sometimes I'll breathe so suddenly that I get this pain in my chest, and the first thing that they teach you is just to really concentrate on your breathing and breathe through your nose, but really deeply, and out through your mouth, and in through your nose, and out through your mouth, and in through your nose, out through your mouth, and it just helps to calm you down. So the last thing that I'll tell you about is focus, and focus is really important anyway on a stage, because your focus as a performer suggests to the audience what's most interesting. So my focus as a puppeteer has to be on the puppet, because I think the puppet is most interesting. But then there's also what the puppet finds most interesting, and when I'm feeling really anxious, I find it impossible to look people in the eye. And I don't really know why that is, because I know that they're just trying to get through to me. They just want to be with me in that moment, but I just can't do it. I think it's because I just don't want them to see the anxiety in my eyes. I don't want them to see it boiling and spilling out and hurting them. No, I don't think that's it. I think it's because I don't want to see what's going on in their eyes. I don't want to see the anger or the frustration or the sadness or whatever. I don't want to see how the anxiety affects them, because that is the worst thing. So, we're sitting on the hill, and the M25 is snaking, and the sun is setting, and the grass is so tall that it almost covers our heads. And I turn to him and I say, I have to tell you something. And it didn't happen like that. So we are. I think we're in Pret a Manger, and we're just. And it turns out he's also an improvisational musician, which is really weird because that's what my dad is, and I'm just really trying not to think too much into that. But and he's telling me about this certain chemical in the brain which is released in two circumstances. One, when you're having sex, and the other is when you are in a group of people and you're all singing together. And I say, oh, that's oxytocin, and he says I'm wrong, but I know that I am right because I looked into this, because that's all we really are. That's all anything that we experience is. It's just chemicals going off in the brain, and it was my psychiatrist who first told me about that. I mean, he was great because he told me that there are two types of anxiety. So there's state anxiety, and then there's trait anxiety. And state anxiety is when something happens around you in your environment that makes you anxious. And then trait anxiety is when it is in you, when it's something that is in you. It's like how your brain is hardwired. So that's the one that I kind of predominantly have. And that was really cool because he used to say that my anxiety thermostat was just set too high, or that that anxiety ran through me like Blackpool through a stick of rock. But I didn't really like that one as much. But that was the thing, is that I always used to just blame myself. I used to always blame myself. I just thought all of this was just a character flaw. It was just a weakness. It was just me not being able to handle things that everyone else could. But it's not. It's all in the brain. And what it is neurotransmitters. And neurotransmitters are chemicals in the brain that pass information from one neuron to the other, and that's how it all goes around and everything happens. And there are 3 neurotransmitters that come into play with anxiety. So the first is gamma-aminobutyric acid, or GABA for short. And its role in the brain is to decrease the activity in overactive neurons. So, I mean, it's a bit like a hot chocolate, or like a Sunday afternoon, or a big hug, or your friend just saying, hey, you could just take 5 minutes, like just chill out. And I just had too little of it. And then the serotonin. And serotonin's role in the brain is just to keep things balanced. So that's your mood, your sex drive, your appetite, your sleep cycle. So it's kind of like that friend who's like firm but fair, who just has your best interest at heart and just really wishes that you would keep to them. And again, I just had too little of it. And then you have adrenaline. And adrenaline is a real motivator. It's key in the fight or flight response. And it's all just like keep on going, 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 go, 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 blood red, boiling, go, go, get it done, get it done, get it done. And I just had too much of it. So you can kind of see when all of that's mixed together and it's all in balance, that everything gets too dark. So I just had this brain fog. Just everything in front of me was just scary and unknown, and everything behind me was just tainted and twisted, and I couldn't see it for what it was. But in a way, that's great. I mean, only because it just shows that none of this is my fault. Like this is just something that's going on in my brain, and it's nothing that I've got control over. Like as anyone else has control over anything else that they do. It's on such a level that it's in my brain, and it's in my blood, and it's in me. It's just all in me. No, we're at the farm, and it's the festival, and it's July, so it's just pissing it down with rain, and I'm in charge of one of the gazebos, but it is about to just take off, and I'm literally on the table with a bit of gazebo in one hand and a bit of gazebo in the other hand, and I'm just thinking, this is just going to take off with me, isn't it? And I look down, and he's holding one of the legs. And he's just getting absolutely soaked, but he doesn't mind, he's just doing it. And I take the executive decision just to just take everything down, get it to the other side of the farm, and he literally just picks up his leg and about 2 tables and just goes and is off. And I turn to my friend and I say, what the fuck have I done? I've just invited this guy to basically watch me work, and now he's got really rained on, and now he's picking up stuff. Like, he doesn't have to do this. And she said, But yeah, he's just doing it. He's just a good guy. And I remember looking across and I just got this little kick in my stomach and I thought, yeah, no, he's a good guy. So we're sitting on the hill, and the M25 is snaking, and the sun is setting, and the grass is so tall that it almost covers our heads. And I turn to him and I say, I have to tell you something. I'm really sorry. I don't think this is gonna work. And I just please, I'm really sorry, because I feel like I've wasted your time, and it's honestly not you. I know it's a cliche, I really know, but it's so true, because it's not your fault. You're really lovely, you're really, really lovely. It's my fault. I've just got this thing in my, I'm just not going to be good enough for you, and I just don't think it's fair. It's hardly fair for me. So I'm really sorry, but I just don't think this is going to work. The thing about anxiety is it finds a way to get really twisted up in who you are. And my friends and my family and everyone who loves me will say, no, we just love you for you. It doesn't matter, but it doesn't help. Because you have anxiety, and through having it, you learn to cope. But through coping, you get tired. And as you get tired, you get run down and you break down. But you still have anxiety, and you learn to cope with it again. But through coping, you get tired, and as you get tired, you get run down and you break down. But you still have anxiety, and you learn to cope with it again. But through coping, you get tired, and as you get tired, you get run down and you break down. And the third time that happened was the first time I had to see a psychiatrist. And within 2 sessions, he prescribed me with this. This is 50 megs of pregabalin. And I remember when he suggested it that I thought, wow, this is it. Now, this is proof in this little capsule. It's proof that I am not good enough to figure all of this out myself. I'm not strong enough. I'm weak. Everyone else can do it. Why can't I? But my psychiatrist explained that anxiety is an illness, and just like any illness, you treat it. And this was one of the ways to treat it. But I didn't want to lose my creativity, because I knew people who had taken antidepressants and had lost that part of themselves. And I didn't want to lose that, because that's all I really am. That's all I can really bank on, is that I'm a creative person. And even my mum said, will she lose that? And I think if your mum says it, then you really have to worry. And I just wanted to be me. But I wasn't who I wanted to be. And I remember the first time that I took it, I was in my parents' house. I was still lived there, and I was on their sofa. And the first time I took it, I felt so tired, and I thought, well, this is it. This is the rest of my life. And then the second day I took it, and my head felt like it was in a vice, and I felt so tired, and I thought, well, this is it. This is the rest of my life. And then the third day I took it, and the third day I took it, and it was quiet. In my head, it was quiet. The next day I took it, and it was quiet. And the next day I took it, and it was quiet. And then the next day I went and saw my friends, and I went, and I'd left everything behind, and it was quiet in my head for the first time in 12 and a half years. And when my psychiatrist first prescribed that to me, he told me to do my research. He said, go look it up, just figure it out from there. And it's not exactly comforting when the first thing you read is, we don't know how it works, but I'll tell you how it works for me. It's all about clarity. It's just having that little bit of extra space. And being able to be objective about your thoughts and your feelings, and then a bit of perspective. It's not a cure, and I kind of have to accept that there might not be a cure, but I mean, that's better than nothing, right? Because now, everything in front of me is just inviting and kind of cool, and everything behind me is, well, I can see it for what it is. And a lot of what I had to do was kind of forgive myself, because I had just been really ill. And the thing about recovery is that you kind of have to figure out who you are without an illness and what you can do irrespective of it. And it kind of starts to become a little bit of a game. And it's a game that I like to call, was that Joni or was that anxiety? And I'll work on a jingle later. So let's see. I drove on the motorway. I did it. And that fear, that pure fear of something going wrong, well, that was just being anxious. And I'm still creative. I'm still really creative, I think. I hope so. If anything, I get a lot more work done. So that's still me. I don't have to suffer for my art. And I went to Poland with my friend Dana. I mean, a completely different story, but that's what we did together, and that fear of the unknown, like that was fine. That was just being anxious. Nothing really bad happened. And I still like my bed and board games and baking, so I'm just a bit of an introvert, but I'm not scared to do things. I just don't fancy nightclubs. And I slept through the night for like the first time in 12 and a half years, and I didn't even realise that was something that you could do, but apparently you can, and that was all part of it, and I'm getting so much done. And I mean, what we would really like is for recovery just to be like, boop, up, plain sailing, always going better, but it's not always like that. There's peaks and troughs. I have good days and I have bad days and I have bad weeks and bad months, but what's happened now is that the bad days are the bad days. They're not just my days, and having a good day is not just possible, it's normal. I'm 23 and I'm in my car and I'm reading a GP's referral letter, and it's not addressed to me, but I read it anyway because I want to know what's being said about me. And I just hope that this means that things are going to get better. I'm 24 and I'm on a train. And I'm having a bit of a panic attack, but it's okay because I know what's happening now. And I think to myself that I can get off this train and it's not going to follow me anywhere. I'm 24 and I'm in my psychiatrist's office. And I'm talking to him, and he's talking to me, and I'm asking him questions, and he's asking me questions, and I'm explaining things to him, and he's explaining things to me. And then one day he says that he's really happy with my progress, like he's really glad where things are going, and he's just asking me if there is anything else that he can help me with. And I say that, yeah, I feel that things are going really well and I'm really happy where I am, and I suppose all I want to really do is share that with someone, share who this kind of new person is. And he said, have you tried online dating? So we're sitting on the hill and the M25 is snaking and the sun is setting and the grass is so tall that it almost covers our heads. And I turn to him and I say, I have to tell you something. And if it bothers you, then you can fuck right off, because this is just something that I deal with sometimes on a day-to-day basis, but things are going quite well at the moment, actually. I have generalized anxiety disorder. I take medication for it, so I'm kind of on the really good side of recovery at the moment, but it's like any kind of physical illness as well. Sometimes I have good days, sometimes I have bad days. I just thought I should tell you to make sure that you didn't mind, because if it bothers you, you can fuck right off.